Boa noite. Boa noite, pessoal do Heavy Culture aí. Boa noite, Miguel. Boa noite, Barrote. Boa noite ao Bill, grande Bill. Estamos mais uma vez aqui, estamos mais uma vez ao vivo com o Miguel, Barrote e o grande produtor Bill Metoyer. Então, sejam bem-vindos, estejam em casa, aproveita para se inscrever no canal, dá o like lá, toca o sininho, que nem o Miguel gosta que eu fale sobre isso. Então, vamos dar as boas-vindas aí ao grande, inigualável Bill Metoyer. Quem é que dá as boas-vindas aí, Miguel, Barrote?
Não passa o clipe de apresentação?
Não tem esse link aí.
Não
o
tem.
Link tá com, okay. O link tá com o Jorge.
Okay. Então, olha, vamos começar por falar em português, uma vez que
first in Portuguese,
o nosso canal é luso-brasileiro. E por isso vamos dizer boa noite a todos aqueles que nos veem agora e que irão ver no futuro e nós, claro que vamos fazer os possíveis para traduzir as vossas perguntas, caso queiram colocar algumas questões e haja tempo para isso, porque nós temos aqui um leque de perguntas vastíssimo, porque somos muito curiosos. E é bom ver que o Ivan está aí cheio de saúde. Já não vinha há algum tempo ao Heavy Culture, mas somos irmãos, por isso estamos presentes e a força vai nos unindo, certamente. Barrote, tu estás mais perto, como é que está aí Vila Nova de Gaia?
Está bem, muito calor, muito calor para uma altura que já devia estar frio, mas estamos bem.
Ok, então vamos avançar com as atividades. E faz as honras.
Vou dar as boas-vindas, né?
So, welcome, Bill. Welcome to Heavy Culture. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. I wish I knew what the hell you guys were just talking about, but it is nice to be here.
We were talking about the usual thing, the weather, how is the situation in Brazil, how is the situation in Portugal.
Yeah,
the whole 9
years.
That's
awesome. I guarantee that's a lot more exciting than anything I have to say. So yeah, continue.
Oh no, don't even think about it. Don't even think about it. Then we are going to start with the first question. First, the rules here, if there are any rules, are very simple. We try to say the question in Portuguese so our audience can better understand what we are going to ask. And then we're going to translate the same question to you in English, and you can, of course, answer in English. And then we'll try to translate back to Portuguese what you have to say about that particular question. Okay, so this is how it works. So there will be some time that we are going to speak in Portuguese, only translating what you say, nothing else. We are not going to say bad things about you. Totally the opposite. Don't worry about it. So I will switch back to Portuguese just to say the question that I'm going to ask you later, okay? And then I'll translate it to you. Okay. Portanto, nós vamos começar por saber, da boca do Bill, como é que anda o mundo das produções, agora que está tudo a tentar, aos poucos, voltar ao normal, um pouco por todo o mundo, e como é que está a ser a rotina dele diária e para nos atualizar sobre os projetos nos quais ele está a trabalhar. Okay, Bill, so first question. Finally, the world is coming back to normal, slowly, but coming back to normal. And our daily routines are slowly being changed as well. And we'd like to know, how is your daily routine right now, production-wise? And give us an update of your projects that you are working on currently.
Well, I have to tell you that because I have my studio at home, I never go anyplace anyway, so that the COVID lockdown really didn't affect me as much as a lot of people. And especially because of the technology that's happening nowadays with music. The majority of my work lately, probably as much as 80%, is when people have recorded stuff on their home computer and they just send me the tracks to either mix or master. So, there hasn't been a lot of projects lately where I actually start recording the band from scratch. So I've been pretty lucky in that I've still been able to work, and I'm still doing a lot of stuff. I mean, currently I just started working with this band called Yidra from Los Angeles, and they're kind of a doom band. This is probably the third time that I'm working with them. So I had to go to another studio just 2 weeks ago just to do the drums because my studio isn't big enough just to do drums. So I'll do the drums and then do everything else here at my home studio. But, I have been lucky that I was still able to work during the pandemic. I mean, how bad were you guys as far as being locked up?
Well, it depends on what you do. Me and Miguel, we both work from home. So, like you, the COVID didn't affect us at all. So it was not that different.
In my particular case, gave me more work than before because we record lots of stuff of e-learning, and COVID was a subject. Lots of recordings, new machines, new tests, everything. So plenty of work.
Yeah, I understand. Well, that's good.
But going back to the work in the studio and putting COVID aside, it was better for you, of course, because you work from home. But do you miss the old days when you had to go to a studio and be with the band there and the whole recording process like it was done before?
Well, yes, I do. I miss the old days. I miss going to a studio. I miss working on 2-inch tape. I miss the times that I did get to travel to work with bands, being able to go to Germany and Italy, and just to Arizona or Florida. So it was nice traveling, getting away from home. But the big difference is back in the old days, you were working in a studio where you had to pay hourly. So somebody's looking at the clock, and sometimes you'd have to rush a lot of things. I mean, there's some of the early records that we did in the old days where we would come in at midnight and we'd have to mix the entire record by the time that the sun came up. So the good thing about now and having my own place is I make sure that nobody is looking at the clock. And try to take the time to make things sound right and to do things right. So that's the one thing that I like about now and the new technology is that I can take more time. I mean, the old days used to be crazy. There was no money. You'd go in and just try to do a lot of stuff in a very short amount of time. So it's definitely much different now. That's for sure.
Yeah. But the traveling is something that everyone loses when they work from home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I do miss that. I miss seeing the just this country, much less the rest of the world. Even though I still might have been stuck in a studio, it was fun traveling. And I can't even remember the last time I've been out of Los Angeles. It's been so long since I've had to go any place else to do any work.
Wow.
So yeah, a lot different.
Okay, let's try to translate everything. I will be
I'll
short.
Sit here. I'll take your time.
Ora bem, Bill, tal como muitos de nós, trabalha em casa e o Covid não o afetou, portanto as coisas para ele não estão muito diferentes em relação ao que estava durante o período de lockdown, e continua a fazer o trabalho em casa, tal como fazia antes, portanto não tem sentido grandes diferenças em termos de projetos. Está a trabalhar pela terceira vez com uma banda de Los Angeles chamada Hydra, uma banda de Doom. e é isso que ele está a fazer de momento. Aproveitamos também para lhe perguntar a pergunta já habitual, comparando o mundo antigo com o mundo moderno, se ele tem saudades. Sim, tem saudades, principalmente das viagens que fazia para a Alemanha, para mesmo dentro dos Estados Unidos, para tudo quanto eram estados dentro dos Estados Unidos. E agora, já há muitos anos, aliás, já nem se lembra da última vez que saiu de Los Angeles, porque trabalha de casa e é aí que está a fazer o seu trabalho. Portanto, basicamente é isso. Passamos agora ao Miguel.
Só uma pergunta, o estúdio que ele trabalha é em casa ou ele está mixando, ou ele está produzindo em casa?
Em casa.
Atualmente ele disse que estava a fazer a masterização de muitas coisas que alguém grava em casa e que ele acaba por depois fazer a magia dele. Ou seja, ele está a receber, ou seja, tudo feito em casa.
Tudo em arquivos, né? Recebe em arquivo e trabalha em casa. Show de bola.
Então avanço para a minha pergunta, porque foi aquilo que me lembrei assim que soube que iríamos entrevistar o Bill, foi lembrar-me do Live Undead do Slayer, que enquanto eu ouvia o álbum, enquanto miúdo, eu dizia, epá, que álbum ao vivo fantástico, e anos mais tarde venho a perceber que aquele disco de 1985 era um álbum de estúdio e que levou uns gritos, umas vozes por cima, e eu gostava de lhe perguntar qual é a história que está por trás disto. Nós tínhamos entrevistado o Brian Slagle e ele... Portanto, nós esquecemos até de perguntar relativamente a esse trabalho especificamente. Eu quero perguntar-lhe qual é que foi a ideia que levou àquele acontecimento, e quem é que, enfim, acabou por concordar, e como é que foi a reação dentro do grupo com esta ideia de criar um álbum ao vivo fictício, que é aquilo que nós ouvimos falar. So, Bill, okay, so this is the first question I thought about when I knew that we're going to interview Bill Metoyer. So I remember as a teenager listening to Live Undead from Slayer and thinking, this is a great live performance captured in 1985, unbelievable. So years later, I read that it was a studio recording with screams layered to those songs. So can you tell us about the story behind this record? We have talked with Brian Slagle, and we forgot to ask him about this on his interview on Heavy Culture. So what was the idea, and who thought about this?
Well, there you go, asking me something that happened 40 friggin' years ago. But I don't really remember the circumstance of why it happened. I know that the band was in New York. I think it had something to do maybe with some type of promotional thing where there was a giveaway and people got to come down to the studio to see Slayer perform. So a lot of people think when they hear that it happened in a studio that the band, recorded the drums and then did the bass and then the guitars. No, it was a live performance. The band played live in front of people. It was recorded. So it is definitely a live performance. There was no overdubs. There was no punching in, and there were people there. It wasn't at a normal venue with hundreds of people, but it was live in the studio. Hence, Live Undead. And as far as the crowd goes, I mean, I wasn't there for the recording. I just mixed it. So I'm not too sure how many people were there, but there was definitely people, and you could hear them screaming in the background. Those were real people. I know I've kind of been accused of pumping up the audience to make it sound like maybe there were more people there. And I don't remember if I did, but I wouldn't put it past me. But I know I didn't, record the audience from Kiss Alive 1 and stick it in there or anything like that. I might have taken the the audience and maybe just doubled the tracks or something. But it's a live recording. No overdubs, just what you hear is how they played it. So,
okay.
can we put that thing to rest?
Yeah, and I feel happy for your answer because it's the same thing that we usually hear about. If it's on the internet, it's not true. Or is it true? So
Era uma curiosidade nossa, né?
So we were curious about that, and that was the first question that came to mind. Let me do the translation, because there are many people that I believe that will be like, oh. Não sei se vocês ficaram surpreendidos ou não com a resposta. Eu fiquei.
Eu fiquei também.
Que houve aquele mito que era um álbum ao vivo, mas afinal não era. E o que o Bill acabou de dizer, que não se recorda das circunstâncias que levaram a que se criasse esta dúvida. No entanto, ele diz que foi por uma altura em que a banda estava em Nova Iorque, numa promoção qualquer do trabalho que eles estavam a fazer, que talvez estivessem a dar algum material promocional, e ele garante que a gravação foi feita ao vivo e em frente a uma plateia, não tendo conhecimento de quantas pessoas lá estavam. Não era eventualmente uma sala de espetáculos normal. No entanto,
clube, talvez?
Havia pessoas e foram gravadas, portanto, não só as reações das pessoas, como também a banda a tocar ao vivo. O Bill apenas fez a mistura deste Live and Dead, que garante que é um álbum ao vivo. E eu estou surpreendido com a resposta. Muito bem.
Sem overdubs, né? Que nem ele falou.
Sem overdubs. É verdade.
Os caras estavam afiados mesmo.
Ivan.
Eu ia perguntar para ele que ele trabalhou com inúmeras bandas. Vendo a carreira dele ali, é extensa demais, e muitas bandas clássicas assim que ele gravou, bandas que a gente cresceu ouvindo. Qual foi a banda, assim, digamos, que ele no começo de carreira dele, que serviu como cartão de visita, que ele podia apresentar para as gravadoras ou para as bandas, como se fosse um cartão de visita para as bandas quererem trabalhar com ele?
Ok. Barrote, queres avançar tu e depois seguir com a tua pergunta, ou queres que faça eu?
Pode ser. Bill, Ivan asks a question about your history as a producer and the bands you recorded, and most of them, or almost the entire catalog, are considered to be classic bands. And from those bands, from that huge list of bands and of classic bands, which is the one that you used as your business card to present yourself when you were considering a new project, or someone was considering a producer for a new project?
Well, there's kind of two things happening there. I mean, the reason why I did so many Metal Blade bands is because I did work for Brian Slagle at the label. So I was lucky to just be in the right place at the right time. And I'm sure it's because I was working with him that I got to do and work with all those incredible Metal Blade bands. So I have Mr. Slagle to thank for my entire fucking career, that's for sure. But I have to say, obviously, to this day, there's still bands that come to me because I did Slayer. I mean, they're kind of big, so especially in the early days, there were a lot of bands that were Slayer fans, and they would come to me because I'm the guy that recorded Slayer. I definitely specifically remember Phil Wren from Sacred Reich and all the Sacred Reich guys going, wow, we're working with Bill Metoyer, he did Slayer. So I heard that a lot in the early days, that's for sure. It's kind of understandable. Right?
Tens que ligar o micro, Barrote.
Definitely. And was Slayer the biggest challenge you had in your career?
challenge. I don't know if they were a challenge. I mean, when I first worked with them, hell, I was just a kid. I was maybe 23 years old at the time, and I'm 61 now.
23,
so they were just
wow.
a bunch of little snot-nosed kids. I mean, it was hard to corral them, that's for sure. I mean, I remember one time they were running around the studio with water pistols, squirting each other, when I've got all these thousands of dollars worth of equipment in this fucking studio. And they're shooting each other with water pistols. So in one of their favorite pastimes were sitting around farting and trying to figure out whose farts smelled the worst, you know? So they were just a bunch of kids having fun, you know? And
well, thank God it was not flamethrowers that they were using.
Oh yeah. the guns came a lot later in their career, but when with me it was just a water pistol. But yeah, so it once in a while it was a little hard to get them to be serious. But you know, in hindsight, I think that was always a good thing. You know, I still to this day hope that when somebody works with me, it doesn't feel like a drudgery, like a job. I mean,
yeah,
I think we're supposed to have fun doing this stuff, you know, and we had fun in the early days.
Be professional, but have fun with it.
We had fun in the early days, and you know, I'm still working with some guys that I worked with that long ago. And now that we're older, they tend to take it a lot more seriously than we did in the old days. But yeah, back then, I mean, if you would have told me Slayer would get as big as they got, I would have told you you're fucking crazy. I mean, you know, I live here in Los Angeles. To be able to play at the LA Forum, and on their last tour, they did 2 dates at the Forum. That still blows me away. I never would have thought that. So, you know, it's amazing that there's still bands to this day that I worked with in the 80s that are still going. So,
does the band still keep in touch with you?
I haven't. You see him once in a while, and the person that I see the most is Dave Lombardo, because we live near each other. So I'll run into him at Ralph's every once in a while. But, not really. I don't tend to talk to the other people very much, to be honest.
Okay, that's fair enough. Pronto, temos aqui uma clássica situação de estar no sítio certo, à hora certa, com a pessoa certa. E ele basicamente trabalhava para o Brian Slagel na Metal Blade, e as bandas iam ter com ele porque ele era empregado da Metal Blade, mais por isso, e toda a carreira dele, e ele agradece muito ao Brian e à Metal Blade por isso, foi muito baseada na sorte de estar naquele lugar e com aquelas bandas que estavam a aparecer naquela altura. Slayer claramente que se tornou, digamos, o cartão de visita dele para futuros projetos. Ele trabalhou com inúmeras bandas que queriam trabalhar com ele porque ele tinha feito Slayer, e
deu exemplo do Sacred Reich.
Deu o exemplo do Sacred Reich, por exemplo, sobre isso. E Slayer garantidamente que foi a banda que mais o marcou na carreira dele e que influenciou mais a carreira dele. A pergunta seguinte tem a ver com a perda.
Não podes deixar, desculpa, Pacote, não podes deixar ficar em claro o facto dele ter mencionado mais recentemente os Slayer terem tocado na arena da LA e serem 2 datas completamente cheio. Se ele imaginaria no início os Slayer encherem, se quer ir tocar à LA Arena, ele diria não iria acontecer. No entanto, ficou bastante admirado com o facto deles terem conseguido tornar-se gigantes, não é? É o tal Big Four.
Ninguém adivinharia que aquilo ia acontecer. A próxima pergunta tem a ver com os Trouble e a perda recente do Eric Wagner, e queríamos saber como foi trabalhar com uma banda que estava a fazer algo totalmente diferente daquilo que se fazia na época deles. Bill, we recently lost Eric Wagner, unfortunately, and how was it to work with a band, Trouble, that was doing something very, very different from what everybody else was doing back then?
Well, I have to tell you that the reason why I'm in this business is because I love Black Sabbath. I'm a huge Black Sabbath fan. Always have been since, I'm like 10, 12 years old. So when I heard Trouble, they reminded me of Black Sabbath, And so working with them was, actually, to me, it was almost like working with Black Sabbath. And I did have, what happened to me?
We lost your
You have to look for your camera.
My camera's right there. I don't know. Looks like
So
your
you
camera was unplugged. Plug it back in. I've
Yep.
only got one camera. Well, that's weird, guys. But you can still hear me.
Yeah,
Yes,
we
we can
hear
still
you.
hear you.
You can still talk while trying to connect your camera again.
I actually like it much more like this, to be honest with you. But
Bill.
I got to be honest. It's like anything back then. I mean, when I was working with these bands that had never put out any real record before, you never know how the people are gonna accept it. And Trouble is another band that it's incredible how many other bands that Trouble influenced. But when I was doing the first couple of records, I can't really say that. I didn't have the foresight to say, wow, these guys are another one of those bands that are gonna really be big. And I have to tell you that when it comes to a band like Slayer, like Trouble, there's so many bands that I worked with that I had no clue how influential or how big they would be. And that all the credit goes to Mr. Slagle, because he's the one that would find these guys and sign them. And thank God I was the one picked to work with them. I mean, there's no, I said, there's no way that I would have ever thought Slayer would be as big as they got. I never thought that Trouble would be so influential. So, yeah, that's all Mr. Slagle's. I'm just, like I said, I'm lucky to be in the right place at the right time. And I have no ass fucking clue how to turn this damn thing back on. I'm sorry, guys, but like I said,
No worries,
you
no worries.
can do this if you don't mind.
Okay, it's back on.
it figures I would figure it out. Damn it.
Here you are.
Anyway, but yeah, again, I know how lucky that I have been in my career to work with bands like that, and it's that I got to work with them early in their careers, and I mean, when I think about it, like the first time Slayer did a record, or Sacred Reich, Fate's Warning, Flotsam and Jetsam, Armored Saint, Lizzie Borden. I mean, the list is incredible. The bands that I was able to work with when they first started their careers, and some of those bands are still around. It's after all these years. But again, man, it's. I give way more credit to Mr. Slagle than to Brian than anything that I did. I was lucky. That's all I can say.
Well, in our personal opinion, and I think I can talk for everyone here. You are being too humble, because
Indeed.
it was very important, I think, for the bands, and it's not a coincidence that you were there when they were starting and they became so big.
Yeah, but I mean, nobody bought the records because Bill Metoyer recorded or produced it. People bought the records because
They sounded good.
the
Yeah, they
band's
sounded good.
songs.
That's your touch.
Well, my touch is just trying to capture the band as you would see them live. I mean, I hope that nobody listens to a record that I produced and said, "Oh, Bill Metoyer produced that." I hope they listened and said, "Oh, that sounds like Slayer. That sounds like Sacred Reich. That sounds like Trouble." So that's all I do, is I just try to capture the band's sound. I mean, I don't even, when bands come in and all of a sudden they'll want to start renting a bunch of guitar gear or bass gear, and I'm like, but guys, didn't you spend a lot of money on this stuff? Haven't you worked for a long time just getting your sound? Why do you want to all of a sudden come into the studio and rent a bunch of shit? Don't you want to sound like you? I want a band to sound like them, like when I see them on stage live. So that's the only thing that I try to get across to the bands is, hey, I'm here to capture you, you know? I mean, somebody liked you enough to maybe signed you to the record label. I'm sure there was a reason, because they were good bands, they had great songs, and you know, they sounded good. So that's always been my objective. I just want to capture them, how they are. And you know, I like I said, I've just been lucky enough to work with some really amazing underground bands in my life.
Yeah, well, they were also lucky to work with you.
Well, thank you.
I'm going to add a little question. Do you still listen to these bands today, to those albums you captured?
Oh, fuck no. No, I don't listen to anything. Because I'll listen to something and wish I would have done that and done this, so no, I don't listen. No.
Okay.
No. Once in a while, there's a few things that I do go back. I can listen to some of the DRI stuff. I can listen to the Flotsam stuff, for example, you know, but no, because I'm always listening, saying I should have done this or that, and it's too fucking frustrating. So I tend not to listen to stuff that I worked on.
Ok, I understand you. Barrote, vamos aí a uma tradução.
Muito curta tem que ser, porque muita coisa foi aqui dita e muito interessante, mas o início da pergunta foi sobre o Strobel e porque é que ele trabalhou com o Strobel. Ele adora Black Sabbath, é pena o JK não estar aqui, porque o JK ia logo fazer uma
Mas
velha.
o Ivan arremelgou os olhos, o Ivan fez assim.
Eu já sabia, eu já imaginei que ele gostava de Black Sabbath.
Eu acho que não houve um episódio do Heavy Culture que os Black Sabbath não fossem mencionados, portanto eu acho que até já deviam ser os patrocinadores do canal, mas e para ele os Strobel lembravam-lhe os Black Sabbath, e ele estar a trabalhar com os Strobel para ele era a mesma coisa que estar, ou parecido com estar a trabalhar com Black Sabbath. E mais uma vez foi estar no sítio certo, à hora certa, com as pessoas certas e na editora certa, e foi isso que fez com que ele trabalhasse com o Strobel no início da carreira. Falámos de muitas bandas, ele mencionou parte da enorme lista de bandas com quem ele trabalhou, e todas têm um denominador comum, que é o produtor no início de carreira dessas bandas, e ele muito humildemente refere que não lhe parece que seja o trabalho do produtor, mas sim o som das bandas, e como muito bem o Miguel mencionou, mas o som das bandas é que é o importante, além da própria banda, obviamente, mas muito importante o som, e esse sim tem o dedo do produtor, e é o grande trabalho do Bill na carreira destas bandas, e a grande influência que ele teve. Próxima pergunta, Miguel.
Não, ainda acrescentou-se a questão se ele ouvia os discos que ele tinha feito a captura, e ele diz que não, porque iria apanhar, olha, não devia ter feito isto, eu devia ter feito aquilo, e grande erro que está ali, ele diz que evita. No entanto, mencionou algumas que ele diz que vai ouvindo bastante interessante. DRI e Flotsam and Jetsam. Ele diz que ainda vai ouvindo estas bandas porque há aí qualquer coisa, não é? Porque ainda estão na ativa e, quem sabe, muito em breve teremos novidades relativamente a estas duas bandas que ele mostra aqui alguma preferência para ouvir, não é? Coisas do passado. Quem sabe se voltará a trabalhar com eles. E bem,
eu tenho uma pergunta fora do guião aqui, já que ele falou em DRI ali. Ele gravou alguns álbuns dessas bandas, DRI, o Slayer, o próprio Sacred Reich, Fates Warning. Ele gravou alguns álbuns ao vivo, ele esteve envolvido com esses álbuns. Queria ver a dificuldade que é trabalhar com um álbum ao vivo, se é bom, qual é a ideia dele de trabalhar com um álbum ao vivo, já que ele gravou vários álbuns. Ele já esteve envolvido. Qual é a diferença de gravar um álbum ao vivo e gravar um álbum novo, digamos, um álbum de música inédita? Qual é o desafio?
É gigante, como deves imaginar, Ivan. So, Brian, Ivan is asking, about. So you mentioned some bands, DRI, Slayer, Flotsam and Jetsam, Fates Warning, that you worked with these bands recording live. So Ivan is asking about the difficulty of recording bands live, and what's your preference regarding recordings? Is it harder to record in studio or live?
Oh, live is way more difficult. There's too many things that could go wrong, and if it goes wrong and it's live, you're pretty fucked. In the studio, you just do it over. Live is a completely
like we are live.
Yeah. I'm still fascinated that it depends on where the hell I turn, how bright things. I'm not used to doing this live shit in this. So if I keep doing this, it's just because I'm not changing the lighting. How does that work? It's like, I don't know. What kind of witchery is that? But no, live is much, much harder. But guys, I don't know. I told you that the Slayer was live. Totally live. It's inevitably when you're doing something live, once in a while you do have to fix maybe a couple of things in the studio. I don't remember having to do that with the DRI, like Live at the Ritz show, but you're just you're in a completely different everything. When I had a blast with Fates Warning. Those guys are some of my best friends. Just traveling on a bus across Europe, recording their live stuff was a blast. But in that situation, they're doing a bunch of shows, and you just pick the best recording out of the show. So that's easier than, for example, the DRI Live at the Ritz. It was just one show. You had one friggin' shot to do everything. And you're not in the studio. You're not using normal equipment. It's it is completely different, and it's much harder than doing anything in the studio. Always. But it's a lot more fun being out there live. But it is scary because if something goes wrong, sometimes there's no doing it again. But I will confess that sometimes, if you're there for the specifically doing like a live video, and something might happen where you say, guys, we got to do this song again, and the audience will be aware because somebody will say, hey, something happened, we're gonna have to do that again, and nobody complains. None of the crowd complains. But yeah, the recording live is completely different, and it's the hardest thing to do.
Essa é a descrição que eu coloquei aqui embaixo de um álbum ao vivo do Fates Warning. Tá no Metoyer Archives, ó.
Okay, so Ivan took a sentence from Fate's Warning. So, Bill, I don't know all about did Metoyer. I don't know. I don't know the sentence. Ivan is laughing, but let me translate to Portuguese. Ivan, podes começar por ajudar. Eu não sei em que contexto é que aparece essa frase.
Ele tá no álbum ao vivo, gravado em Atmans, do Fate's Warning. Eles botaram isso aqui na descrição, que é ele que tá fazendo.
Ok.
Talvez um trabalho bastante complicado que foi.
Ok. Vamos aqui à tradução.
Fuck all cockpit. Somebody's asking.
No. This was a statement from Fate's Warning that is on the record, I believe.
Really? Yeah, well, like I said, I curse sometimes.
Live in Athens.
So things like that will come out of me. And these damn bands
I believe that's the fun part.
I don't know fuck all about cockpit. Yes, I have said that more than once in my life. Yes.
Ok. Tal como disse o Bill, Ivan, é muito mais difícil trabalhar ao vivo, porque é um espaço onde tudo pode acontecer. Pode correr bem, mas tudo pode correr mal. E quando estás numa situação como a nossa, que isto é uma live, se a minha cadeira se partir, partiu-se. Não há hipótese de voltar atrás e refazer. No estúdio, as coisas não acontecem assim. E sabes bem disso. Tens uma banda, gravas, não gostas do take, vou voltar a gravar outra vez até ficar como eu gostar. Não digamos que estamos à procura da perfeição, mas pelo menos sabemos sempre que podemos fazer algo melhor, vamos voltar a fazer. Ele utiliza novamente o Live Undead para dizer que foi uma gravação feita ao vivo e que depois ele teve a oportunidade de dar uns retoques, que é outra das possibilidades dos álbuns ao vivo que nos chegam às mãos. São álbuns que muitas vezes não são captados, aquilo não é o cru do álbum ao vivo, vai sempre haver ali um trabalho, uma masterização, uma mixagem para puxar mais as guitarras, para puxar mais o baixo, eventualmente o público, e por isso há sempre a possibilidade de fazer retoques. Depois, mencionou a dificuldade que é teres uma data única em fazer um concerto com uma gravação ao vivo, mencionou The Array, em que foi apenas uma noite, e aí tudo se torna bem mais complicado, quando tudo tem que sair bem naquele take único que é um concerto ao vivo. Às vezes pode eventualmente acontecer, se estiverem para gravar um videoclipe de um determinado tema ao vivo, se não correr bem, podem sempre no espetáculo dizer que vão voltar a gravar. Não há reclamações, tanto quanto ele diz, e nós sabemos disso, que às vezes as bandas já aconteceu, haver um percalço e eles dizerem que vão começar o tema do início, e nós, na boa, não temos qualquer problema com isso. Por outro lado, ainda fala da situação que se torna mais confortável, que é acompanhar uma banda numa turnê em que se vai captar N datas, depois escolhem-se os melhores takes são selecionados para fazer parte do álbum ao vivo. Por isso, cá está a resposta. Ao vivo é sempre mais difícil. Quando estamos a trabalhar em cima do joelho, é mais divertido porque é a adrenalina que está a dominar, mas ao mesmo tempo é uma responsabilidade muito grande. E por isso é que saem então frases como aquela que aparece no álbum dos Fate's Warning, em que se diz muita asneira, porque é preciso descomprimir, não é? Eu agora vou passar à pergunta seguinte, em que vou-lhe perguntar qual é a opinião dele acerca daquilo que ele melhor conseguiu enquanto engenheiro de estúdio, qual foi o álbum que ele tenha conhecimento que foi o mais vendido, músicos favoritos, e também vou acrescentar aqui qual foi o maior está-me a faltar aqui a palavra em português, a maior decepção durante toda a carreira dele em algum músico específico. Não sei se ele vai enfim, deixar ficar essa noção, mas pelo menos vamos tentar perceber quais é que foram as maiores conquistas que ele fez. Bill, English again. So, in your opinion, what do you think was the biggest achievement you had as a studio engineer? Your biggest selling album, your favorite musicians led by you while being an engineer, and also the biggest disappointment throughout your career?
That's a lot of stuff to ask.
Biggest achievements.
Well, I don't say that I have a biggest achievement, but I have just been lucky enough to work with some of these bands when they first started out. Just the fact that I helped them along maybe in their career just by doing some of their first records. You know, there's the Slayer, the Fates Warning, the Flotsam, the Dark Angel, Armored Saint, Lizzie Borden, Trouble, and even Warbringer. You know, there's been a lot of bands that I was lucky enough to work with them when they first started out. So to me, that's a big achievement. I think did you ask me who's my favorite?
Favorite musician.
Musicians. I've been able to work with so many incredible musicians. But and the thing that still blows me away, well, okay, one of my favorite things is the fact that, you know, they're when I work with a band, I like to become friends with them. You know, I mean, I have a very good friend of mine who's also a producer, and he said to me once, after he does a band, if the band still likes him, if they don't hate him by the end of the project, then he feels like he did something wrong. And I'm the complete opposite. After I work with a band, I hope that we become friends and that we stay friends. And that's one of my biggest achievements is there's some of these guys that I've worked with that are honestly my best friends, you know. So I'm proud of that fact. But when I think about some of the musicians that I've worked with, it seems like I think the drummers, for some reason, there's a lot of really, really good drummers I've got to work with. I mean, when you think about Lombardo, Gene Hoglan, I got to work with Frankie Banali, with Vinny Appice. Vinny was in Black Sabbath. I got to fucking work with Vinny Appice. And Tempesta, Mark Zonder. I mean, it seems like the drummers are the ones that always stick out in my mind. But Billy Sheehan, one of the greatest bass players in the world. I got to work with Billy. Yeah, I hate answering friggin' questions like this because I'm always going to forget somebody, you know. But, you know, I've worked with Scott from Anthrax, and yeah, it is cool that I realize that there are people out there that have to stand in line and wait to get autographs and pictures with these people that I call my friends. So, you know, that's one of the coolest things about being in this industry. So, yeah, there's still a lot of, you know, Ray from Fates Warning, Joey Vera from Fates Warning and Armored Saint. I mean, these Juan Garcia who's in Body Count now, and Vince Dennis that is in Body Count. These are my best friends. And again, I understand that people would just give their left arm to just talk to these people for 5 minutes, you know. So that's one pretty cool thing about my job.
Okay.
That's a lot to translate, huh?
No, don't worry. We do a compact. O Bill diz-nos que teve a sorte de trabalhar com tanto músico que torna-se complicado ele estar aqui a mencionar alguns. No entanto, não deixa de o fazer. Vocês ouviram os nomes deles e reconhecer-nos certamente. Ele volta humildemente a dizer que teve muita sorte de trabalhar com muitas bandas que estavam a começar, e então isso fez com que tivesse trabalhado com inúmeras bandas. E ele faz aqui uma menção de que ele continua ainda hoje a gostar de trabalhar com bandas que se tornam amigos. E dá importância a isso, porque acredita que se essa magia acontece, quer dizer que ele sente que fez um bom trabalho. E isso é muito interessante, o facto de manter o contacto com vários músicos e considerá-los amigos, e sente-se com muita sorte, lá está a humildade dele, de algumas pessoas que davam tudo para poder estar 10 minutos ao lado daquela pessoa, e ele diz: são os meus amigos. E isso de facto, não é? Isso merece uma vénia praticamente. Nota-se aqui que há uma ligação à parte rítmica das bandas, porque ele já não é a primeira vez que falava do Dave Lombardo, depois falou por várias pessoas ligadas à secção rítmica. Ele começa por mencionar bateria, baixo e só depois vai à guitarra. Portanto, nota-se aqui uma certa predileção pela parte rítmica, que também é provavelmente a mais complicada de capturar, nomeadamente a bateria. Por isso, aqui está. Ele sente-se ainda hoje com muita sorte por ter trabalhado com tanta gente e ter feito amigos que permanecem ainda hoje. Barrote ou Ivan? Já estou meio perdido. E estás sem som, Barrote.
A próxima pergunta é tua.
Para finalizar.
Para finalizar.
Ok. Eu estava perdido. Obrigado. So, Bill, this will be our last question. But before, let me thank you so much for this incredible hour, because I feel flattered to be speaking with you.
Yes.
I know we are not friends, but let's call it Facebook friends, and I wish you well, and I'm so glad that you work with all these bands throughout the years and still do. And the final question has something to do with that, with working with a band that means a lot to me. And I was talking with Rob Alanis from Evil Dead, and asked him something about the recording of United States of Anarchy, and something peculiar. And he just told me that while you guys were recording the demo, he used the metronome. So when he wasn't feeling very comfortable, and you said that when you were really recording for the album, you said to him, "Don't use it," and you guys did it like that, and he felt pretty confident, and it worked well. He feels like this is like the old school, the old way to capture a drum, and he was quite happy with it. How is it to be working with a band, like Evil Dead, like a band with guys like Juan Garcia that you mentioned, and all the Evil Dead guys? How is it to work with them, and on a single work you could capture the essence of the band like it was in the past?
Well, I mean, first of all, working with Evil Dead, though, again, friends. Been friends with those guys for a very long time, and they are old school guys. And in the old days, when there was just the tape and not these computers, nobody followed a click. Nobody followed a click. It was just, you do it naturally. So I got to be honest with you, because of this new technology, it's much easier for me as a producer if somebody follows a goddamn click, but you just can't get these old farts to follow one, okay? So, but you can't just nobody can walk into a studio and just play to a click. That's something that you have to fucking just do. So, I know enough where I can tell if a drummer is uncomfortable trying to follow a click. So I said, fuck the click. do it like old school and just, you know, I mean, most of the bands in the 70s, when the stuff that I listened to, nobody followed click. It was all natural. So I am used to that. Nowadays, it is a different story. It seems like most of these new bands, they put the click up. They might even just play parts at a time. Then you're like, because of the computers, you can copy and paste and make everything so fucking perfect. And sometimes it sounds so sterile because things are so damn perfect. I'd rather get rid of the clicks, fucking just play it how you feel it. And when you do that, it is more work. It's not even. It's more work for everybody sometimes, because if you were following a click, for example, a guitar player could just play one little piece. You can copy that little piece and just paste it, so he doesn't have to play the whole damn song. But when you do that, that's when things become so damn sterile. And that's my one complaint about all the new music that it's happened. It is still easier for me if a drummer will let me at least program a click, because then I can copy and paste, and the guitar player doesn't have to play the whole entire song perfectly. But in the end, it's much more organic to do it old school. So things just turn out a lot better with these old fucks that I work with. That's all.
And the sound is perfect. Congratulations.
Yes, it is them. It is them, and like I said, that's what I try to capture. I try to capture the band. They don't get on stage and play to a click. So that's, you know, and ultimately, as much as I would love some of these guys to do that because it makes it easier for me, I realize, no, let's keep it organic and just do it old school. So I'm an old school guy. I still use a computer like I used a tape machine. I don't want to rely on it. I just want to record and, you know, just capture their good moments.
Will you be able to record something on tape again?
I gotta be honest. If I did, I would record it onto the tape and then dump it in the computer so that I can do that type of magic. But
I get you.
yeah, most of there's hardly any studios in Los Angeles anymore that still have tape. Most of the big studios closed down. Everyone's got a friggin' studio in their home now. So it doesn't make any sense to me anymore. So no, it's I would still love.
Do you have any idea about the future of music industry?
No, I have no clue. I know that a lot of people are very down on streaming and everything. I personally, I think bands like the Slayers, like the DRI, these old school bands that were out years ago, and there's these kids that are getting turned on to them that are streaming their music now. And you know, I do get royalties still from like Slayer and DRI. I've noticed my royalties have gone up since streaming. But I think it's because they were the older bands, you know, and people are streaming the older bands. I don't know what's happening with streaming the newer bands. So, you know, I'm an engineer. I'm a producer. Mr. Slagle was the first one that I ever heard that said, I think this streaming thing is going to be good, when everybody else told him he's full of shit. But all I know is, hell, I look at my royalties and they are bigger now because of streaming. But again, that's because of these bands that have been around for a very long time. And the only way that some of these people can hear them and know about them is because of streaming. So the new stuff is, I'm still baffled when it comes to how the industry is and then what the fuck is going to happen. There's there's a reason why I got out of the business end of the music business and just kept recording and producing, is because I don't understand. I don't understand the business. So that stuff Mr. Slagle seems to be fucking really good at. But I just want to record
Okay, let me do the translation, please. Acrescentei ainda aqui uma questão sobre o que é que ele achava do futuro da música, e ele diz que vai estando satisfeito com o que está a acontecer, nomeadamente com o streaming, em que ele nota que começa a ganhar mais agora com os royalties do que ganhava antes, porque ele diz que ainda no tempo em que toda a gente falava mal do streaming, já o Brian Slagle dizia que ia ser uma coisa boa para o futuro, e ele diz que está a sentir isso, principalmente com os trabalhos antigos das bandas que ele produziu, e que têm streamings incríveis, ainda hoje são muito procuradas, e toda a gente, uma vez que está no streaming, portanto toda a gente tem a possibilidade de aceder-lhe rapidamente. Não entendo muito bem como é que será o futuro da música, mas é como ele diz, eu deixei o negócio da música para trabalhar só com a música. Parece-me interessante. Relativamente à questão que eu coloquei, depois de falar com o Rob Alanis dos Evil Dead, sobre o álbum United States of Anarchy, eu questionei ao Alanis sobre alguma peculiaridade. Ele disse que na altura de fazer a captação da bateria para a demo, que foi utilizado o metrónomo. No entanto, ele não se sentiu muito confortável, falou com o Bill sobre o assunto, ao qual o Bill disse: não utilizes, grava sem o metrónomo. E então foi isso que aconteceu, ao que o Rob diz que se sentiu muito mais à vontade, muito mais orgânico, old school, como manda a regra, e diz o Bill que trabalhar com velhos dá nisto. Dá a possibilidade de voltar a trabalhar um bocadinho como era no passado. Não é preciso uma ajuda, não há muletas. Elas existem, se ele quiser utilizá-las. No entanto, eu acho que é a prova dos 9. Em vez de estarem a fazer ali uma parte rítmica da coisa e depois fazer o copy-paste, basta que se trabalhe com velhos para que eles comecem um tema, a gravação de um tema em estúdio, e eles começam do princípio e só acabam no fim e dizem já está, ok? É a diferença. No entanto, lá está, hoje em dia toda a gente tem um estúdio em casa, e estas novas tecnologias permitem, enfim, fazer muita coisa, e também lhe vai dando trabalho, que foi uma das coisas que ele disse no início da nossa live, é que vai trabalhando com bandas que gravam as coisas à sua maneira, e que depois acabam por enviar alguém que tem conhecimentos de como é que pode dar um upgrade ao som que está ali. No entanto, diz que old school, orgânico, e digam não ao estéril. Foi tudo. Uma live com muita história. Haveria muito mais para perguntar. Eu confesso que nem olhei para as perguntas do nosso chat, porque nós temos tempo limitado, como toda a gente sabe. Mas certamente ainda vamos ouvir falar do Bill Metoyer muitas vezes. Ele já falou daqui de algumas coisas que está a fazer, e nós vamos estar atentos.
Vamos lá, vamos agradecer ele aí, vamos agradecer o pessoal do chat, e na próxima quinta-feira, que vai ser hoje, essa semana nós vamos ter 2 lives, vai ser com o Alex Kiefer da Troops of Doom, na quinta-feira. Estejam conosco, obrigado ao pessoal do chat aí, obrigado ao Miguel, obrigado ao Barrote, um agradecimento especial ao grande Bill aí, que gravou inúmeros álbuns que a gente escuta a vida toda aí, e provavelmente a gente vai ter muita notícia ainda de álbuns que ele vai estar metido no meio aí. Miguel, das finalizações para ele aí.
Thank you so much for being with us and for recording so many albums I have over there. So I'm also old school, an analog guy. I'm a fan of vinyl, so please give us more stuff, and all the best for you, and thank you again for being with us.
I'm working on it.
Thank you, Bill.
There'll be a Hyrax record coming soon, so that's another old school fan that you can look for.
Ele esteve conosco aqui.
Keaton Depena was with us a few weeks ago. And,
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
You didn't told us that you were working with him. Good to know.
Yeah, they're still writing. We're supposed to do something before COVID hit, but yeah, I am on his ass to finish fucking writing so we can record the next record. So that
Keaton, finish your work.
yes. Thanks
Okay.
a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Again,
Thank you.
so
Thank
much.
you very much.
And you have
Very
Felix
much.
Griffin from DRI to thank for this, by the way. I never do this type of shit, but one of you mentioned Felix, so I said, "Oh, well, fuck, I guess I have to do this." So
This will be a good memory for you.
yeah, okay. Thanks a lot, guys.
I hope so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Valeu. Obrigado,
abraço,
valeu.
abraço para o Jorge também.
Isso, que amanhã tá de aniversário. Então,
Ok.
thank you.
Ok. Bye bye.
Bye bye.